Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here, doing another video. This is the third attempt doing this damn video. But this is about who I am endorsing for the 2020 presidential election. And I will not be voting if this man does not run, unless Kanye does run, because I think that'd be hilarious. And I support that. And of course, it is Jesse the Body Ventura, who I will be voting for oh shit, if he decides to run. So there's some, various reasons why he might not. I'm not going to go into that here. You can probably, do an internet search on why. And I know he's a controversial figure with some people because of the Chris Kyle stuff, which, if you actually listen to his side of the story, it's pretty reasonable. So, I mean, I would suggest if you are a hater or a recent hater because of Chris Kyle stuff, then I would suggest, looking at Ventura's side of the story. And anyways, the whole story with me and Jesse Ventura goes back a long time. I was pretty disenfranchised with the major political parties years ago, and I read about Jesse Ventura. I actually had some family that lived in Minnesota for a while when he was governor, and him as governor wasn't spectacular as far as I know, as far as like any kind of revolutionary kind of thing. He was kind of a middle of the road, dare I say, centrist Democrat as far as how he ruled Minnesota. Now, that doesn't mean that he didn't do some cool stuff, and like, for example, the light rail system, and he did some good things. And I've heard some, he was a different, actually his politics were quite different back then. He was very against the two major political parties, and he was more, I guess he was more into free trade and stuff, because I remember reading about him doing free trade stuff and hanging out with some of the, like Al Gore. He kind of talked to him about some like Chinese trade stuff. But he's had kind of an evolution. I mean, even in his book, I Ain't Got Time to Bleed, his first book, which is a very entertaining, interesting book, and I read it years ago, and that's why I got into him in part. He talks about how he used to be just a major like Reagan right-winger in the 80s. I wouldn't say like well, maybe not that hardcore, but he didn't know the difference between socialism and communism. Now, obviously, that's kind of, it's kind of I think back then it was an easier mistake to make, but I mean, like now with how our information comes out, it's not as easy to make that mistake. But when, oh, my internet's not working. That's not good. Anyways, I gotta fix that today. Been having all these internet problems lately. So I'll get this uploaded. Mark my words, though. So he didn't know the difference between communism and socialism, and someone told him that. And so it's incidents like that where how he describes it and stuff that really sold me on him, because he has a humility for all his ego. I mean, he was look at his wrestling career. He's all based on ego and image and stuff. I mean, the hilarious stuff he used to say. Classic movies like Predator that have him in there. I mean, yeah, the guy has kind of an ego and stuff, but I like he's a likable guy with the ego, because he has a certain type of humility to him. Take, for example, his books that he writes. He uses a co-writer, and he on one time he was doing an interview. He was like, oh, he's basically my writer, and I just tell him some stuff. And like, he wasn't. I'm not saying like he's saying he's a ghostwriter, the guy he writes with, but it's like he was giving him more credit than he gave himself. He has this humility about him that's very, very appealing. And the humility stretches through time, because, or maybe they go that way. I'm always weird about which direction I go in with stuff I say, because timelines go to the right, and that's the right if you're looking at me from this point of view. Anyways, so he has a humility about him that is very appealing, and it's like when he learns new information, he absorbs it and uses it. It's not like some politician that's stuck in their ways. And that's kind of what appeals to me about him. Now, he had some silly, kind of cheesy shows like in the 2010s, like the conspiracy theory show. And there's a lot of controversy about his conspiracy theory stuff and his conspiracy culture connections. Like, he used to be, I don't think they're friends anymore. He used to be friends with Alex Jones. I think there was like this thing with, was it Willie Nelson, Alex Jones, and Jesse Ventura hanging out once? It was really bizarre. I think you can find it on YouTube. I can't remember exactly where that came from. See, Alex Jones, like I've done some videos about him before. He really did have kind of a different point of view, or he at least acted like it back in the like 2010, 2009. Some people would argue that he changed, he got compromised by whatever powers or whatever earlier. But even in 2010, 2011, 2012 kind of started to go a little more in the direction he's today. But, he used to be a little more amicable with different people. He had some left-wingers on there a lot of the time. Of course, he would try to like tie them into his conspiracy stuff. Well, don't you think that's part of the New World Order? But still. So Jesse Ventura was kind of friendly with Alex Jones at one point because Jesse Ventura is a free thinker. He's skeptical. So that leads a lot of people to have, that leads people to conspiracy culture because you don't trust what the powers that be are saying. And with Jesse Ventura, what's interesting is that he was really into JFK growing up. So when he got into the JFK conspiracy stuff, that was really what launched his whole thing with that. So that's why he's into conspiracy culture, is because he's very idealistic and he's also a skeptic about things. So you put those two things together, and that, I think that's what contributes to conspiracy culture. Now, a lot of people might not like the whole thing about Jesse Ventura being into conspiracy theories and stuff, but he's pretty damn reasonable about them. He's, even if you watch that conspiracy theory show, you watch it now, you're like, well, I don't know about this, but I'm gonna investigate it. And then he finds out from his team of experts or whatever. I'm gonna get to that, and actually more about that in a second. His team of experts said it was all a crock of shit, the conspiracy theory and stuff. So it was a very interesting show. Some people might think he's controlled opposition or whatever. I don't think he is. So there's no proof of that. Can't even get a job like with a mainstream media source nowadays. So it's harder for him to do that because of all the Chris Kyle bullshit. But anyways, about the Chris Kyle bullshit, you might be a critic of Jesse Ventura, but read his side of the story for once, even if before you judge. So anyways, Jesse Ventura has this appeal and charm to him, and humility and ability to change his mind in a way that's very evolutionary, in a way that I think would be a great president, because he will try to get to the bottom of things. As cheesy as it sounds, like even conspiracy theory show. The main thing that I like about Jesse Ventura is his humility mixed with his ego makes him want to get to the bottom of things, but his humility saves him from being a total dipshit about it, And like that conspiracy theory show, it had these young like researchers that were on the show with him. They were doing all this research and stuff, and he deferred to them, but he like kind of, I think his managerial style, his executive style would be very good for the country and being president, and his ideas, not to be mentioned, he's totally out of the box. He talks about, like, one of his jokes was like, politicians should have all the racing kind of jackets with all the logos. They should have all the corporations that they are representing. I don't think he would like make that into law, but it's like those kinds of out of the box ideas I think we need. And I think he would have the best, and this is kind of where I stand politically anyways, he would have the best of the social libertarian side. Decriminalize drugs, get out a lot of these foreign entanglements that aren't going anywhere. Just a lot of that stuff just needs to be done, and less of these, making things a crime that are stupid, like a more libertarian side. But he also has the social democratic side, because he's for a national healthcare system, which actually that was an evolution for him. And I don't know about education, but I'm pretty sure he's probably on the education side too, because in his original book, he was really against not public education. And I'm sure there's probably people have anecdotes from Minnesota, like the teachers unions probably fought him, and when he was governor, he was probably an asshole sometimes to him and stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised about that. But now what matters is now, that's the thing about Ventura, is that he's had this evolution, and I've seen the whole evolution all along the way. That's what really is great, because his evolution is more organic. It's not like John Kerry voting for the Iraq War and then coming, I don't remember this whole thing, but coming out the next day, oh, at first I supported it, now I don't. It's like about face overnight. Ventura's is an organic evolution into different political ideas and beliefs, and fully researching the impact of things. Being a conspiracy theorist means that you're skeptical of things, conspiracy theorist, and you're going to want to get to the bottom of things. And I think that's, he wants the truth. He's a truth seeker. Now, you may not agree with all the conspiracies that he used to talk about, and I think he's softened up on a couple of them. And you may not believe in some of the ideas that he has, but he has that intellectual curiosity that our mainstream politicians, including Donald Trump, do not have. He wants to get to the bottom of shit. He wants to investigate. He wants to find the truth. He wants to find the solutions. And he's not going to bend over like Bernie fucking Sanders for Biden's dick, because he hates the two-party system. He wants to he wants to destroy the system that we have in many ways. I mean, destroy is not the right word, but have an alternative, have alternatives to this bullshit. So that's really why I like Jesse Ventura, and I've liked him for many years because he just has a lot of refreshing things to say. I think even there was one time Al Gore gave him a compliment. Yeah, he's refreshing. It was kind of funny. I don't know. Al Gore was such a robot at times. It's fucking bullshit. Just a lot of the bullshit we had to put up with him. I mean, and that guy did an about face too, as a lot of people in politics do. He's totally neoliberal as far as economics in the White House, which is environmental destruction 101 is neoliberalism. Let's just be honest. And then he's like an environmentalist after. It's it's a little contradictory, no matter what people say. But Jesse Ventura has had a natural evolution. He may even get more conservative than he used to be. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Because he has that type of fluidity as a person, as individual, as a human being, that openness, that eagerness to learn, and compassion. He has compassion, but he's no bullshit, I mean, I hate to say this, but Donald Trump in the early 2000s and was way closer to what Jesse Ventura's positions are now. And so before these handlers and these fucking billionaires and who the hell knows got a hold of Trump. I mean, he already had some really fucking shady people that he hung out with, like Roger Stone or Roy Cohn. I mean, that's pretty fucked. But there was, and Roger Stone may have been behind that 2000 bid, but his platform, I'm saying, in 2000 is Jesse Ventura's platform now would probably be closer to Donald Trump's back in 2000. So, yes, I endorse Jesse Ventura. I think we need a change. I know he's an old, crusty white man, who does this a lot. I don't know what that is about, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's all the fucking, I don't know. It's kind of funny. I think a few people I've seen do that are older and stuff. And he's, he's getting up there. He's not a young spring chicken like fucking Buttigieg was or whatever. He's not a young guy. And by the way, I would never support him. But yeah, and he's a white male and all that stuff. But he can see through bullshit, and that's why, I've supported him through these years, because he just, I liked him even back when I was way more left wing than him, way more liberal than him. Back in the day when I read that book, I Didn't Get a Time to Bleed, I supported Jesse Ventura just because of the way he talks about things and tries to keep things open and in the spectrum of opinion. So that's why I liked him back then. I still like him now, and he's come closer to my political beliefs that were already there. But I wouldn't care if he got a little more conservative, because that's just how he thinks. I think his character, he has such character as a human being that I think he would just be a great president, and he would, he would be the first third party or non-Democrat Republican president. And just imagine that. Just imagine these old institutions, Republican Party and the Democratic Party, right? They're so propped up by all this bullshit, these corporations and these people that have had these ties, these economic ties going back 100, 150 years, depending on what you're talking about. And to see those institutions falter and have someone that's fresh, that has none of that baggage. Just imagine this: none of that baggage. As far as what Jesse Ventura, someone like Jesse Ventura does not have that. People thought that about Trump, but Trump is a Republican. Trump kind of went more that route, since 2010, 2011 himself towards the more Republican right wing thing. And after election, right when the election was happening, 2015 was kind of his turning point to really go to these billionaires like Sheldon Adelson and all these people that were funding his election, his campaign. He kind of went even further down that rabbit hole of, purely far right wing kind of stuff. But even in 2015, I swear I saw him talking about universal health care. I think he even did in a Republican debate. He was talking about that too, which is kind of funny because, we forget about this. We forgot that Trump was ostensibly a Democrat. And I have theories about that, why he was. I think it was partly for his own political gain in New York City. But I also think like he was hanging out with people. He's a product of his environment. Kind of like Ventura. Ventura is sort of like that too, because he probably talks to his sons, I think he has more than one, but talks to his friends and they influence him. I mean, everybody's like that, right? And Trump is extremely in that realm to an absurd extent. So whoever's last in the room, they said, as it's been said, whoever's opinions last in the room with Trump, he'll share that opinion or he'll change his mind about something. And that's a bad character flaw. When in moderation, like with Ventura, it's a quality because he has rational, critical thinking that he does when he gets information. With Trump, it's bad because it's whoever last talked to him. Now, that doesn't mean that Trump doesn't have his own opinions. I mean, obviously, he doesn't like people like John Bolton, even though he hired him. Why did he hire him? Why did he hire neocons if he doesn't like neocons? If the Trump thing's anti-neocon, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But, you can comment and explain that to me. I'd love to know. But in short, it's becoming like a 20-minute video. But we need somebody that's inspirational, that can really make a change, that really has that spirit of change and positive thinking, outside of the box solutions. That's why, if he runs, and I may even write him in anyways, I am supporting Jesse Ventura for 2020.